Welcome to the Healing Generation. In this podcast, we discuss various topics regarding the Asian community, whether it be through professional interviews or group discussions. In today's episode, we're exploring the complexity of growing up with Korean heritage and navigating identity in a multicultural world. We'll dive into cultural experiences, from family dynamics and friendships to the communities that shaped us. We'll also discuss how online culture and the global rise of Korean media and music have influenced our relationship with our heritage. Most importantly, we'll share personal reflections on what it means to live between two identities, the phases of embracing and sometimes distancing ourselves from Korean culture, and how age and maturity have deepened our understanding of who we are. We hope you enjoyed today's discussion. For more information about the initiative behind this podcast, mental health resources, and other medical services, please visit koreanhelp.org or email info@koreanhelp.org. So to start off our discussion, I kind of wanted to open up the conversation generally about your guys' childhood, kind of how you guys grew up, and the demographics or the way that most of the people in your town kind of live their life. I can start. For me, I grew up in a pretty Asian-dominated community, I would say, but I went to school where all of my friends were, for the most part, not Asian, and I think when I was younger, that didn't really have too big of an impact on me because I did go to Korean school on the weekends. But I think definitely growing up, that has changed, even when you grow up in a community that still is Asian. But I was wondering how you guys felt about that and how your childhood was like overall.
Well, I'm sure I and my brother Daniel can relate to the growing up in the Asian dominated community because our school is very diverse. I'm actually not sure how the stats were in elementary school, but currently, well, for me in high school, it's mostly Asian.
Yeah, I
But
wouldn't say it's diverse. It's mostly Asian.
well, yeah, in our school, there is specifically mostly Chinese, so there isn't as big of a Korean population. So, but I didn't feel a lack of an Asian presence, especially in school. So I was never like, oh, I can't fit in because of my race or something, because I always had a Korean friend in a class,
Mm-hmm.
and as well as church or outside schooling where it's Korean. So I always had a community that I could feel where I belonged to. So have you guys ever felt that kind of disconnect between your identity from your surroundings?
Well, I grew up in Korea, so my childhood was pretty much full of Koreans and maybe 0.1% non-Koreans. And yeah, that caused a disparity between myself and my surroundings when I was growing up. When I moved to the US, especially around middle school, because then I think it wasn't Asian dominant at the very least. I think I saw a lot more what Caucasian, Latin American, and African American friends rather than Asian friends.
Wait, was this an international school?
No, it was just a public middle school in the US. I think it was MS
Um,
67, Queens.
Wait, I went there.
Really?
Wait,
Uh,
you came here in middle school? I thought you came here in high school.
no, I came here in middle school. If I came here in
Oh,
high school, I
Oh,
would not have been eligible to take SGCT, and I would not have been able to make it to Stuyvesant.
oh, that's true. My fault.
Yes.
what would you say was like the biggest change coming from Korea to America? Like, what was the biggest like
Uh,
culture shock?
People don't speak Korean, probably. I
Is
Okay,
that a
that's
real
fair.
culture shock?
Well, I
Were
should
you
have
shocked?
anticipated that. I did anticipate it happening, but really it's different when it actually comes to you that no one else understands what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
And
makes sense.
yes. Hey, and I also had a very that was like the peak moment was my pride because right before I came to state, I was top student in this school. I think I was top two on my placement exam of the whole school. So
Wow.
I really had a
Mm,
pride about myself. And then I came to the US and I'm like, no one pretty much understands me. And that was one of the biggest
mm,
shock, I should say.
Mm.
mm. But I think it's very
Well,
hard to
Yeah.
tell now. Yeah.
Well, you can. You did you go there and showed all these people, look, this Korean is really smart, you know?
Well, I just sold it well at maths. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
yeah.
Yeah.
good.
But that's like default for Asians. Let's just say that. So no one
True.
was really
I don't know about now
really
though.
amazed about it.
Calculus is a little hard.
Mm.
Calculus. Calc 1
Yeah, it's
should be
very hard.
easy. Calc 2 gets rough, yes. Anyway,
Anyway, well, calculus is a college class, and speaking of college, um, I go to a non-Asian dominant university, and having majority of the students not being Asian, let alone Korean, is very different from what I'm used to. Because in high school there were a ton of Asians, there were a ton of there were a good amount of Korean people, not a lot, but there would be a way for us to get connected through each other, which was through our moms. Korean moms, they know everybody. But my mom isn't here anymore in college, so trying to find your own like group and finding Asian groups is like a little bit harder this now that like you have to actively look for them, and the fact that they're not everywhere you go. So it
Yeah.
required a lot more work to, find
Yeah.
my
I
own
definitely
Asian
relate.
community.
I relate to the part where you said like kind of how your mom or your parents have a link to your heritage. And I guess like I haven't been in college yet, but I definitely think that without that link, especially because I speak English with everyone, just except my parents, I think that's definitely something that, in the future would be kind of a rift. But kind of transitioning the topic into the online media and beyond what we've kind of grown up with, we know that there was a sudden rise in Korean culture. I'm not particularly sure when, but there was definitely like an outbreak one year, and now it's very common just in the music, the culture, the skincare, all of that on social media. And I was wondering what, I guess, your guys' initial reactions were to that and what you guys think about it now.
Yeah, nowadays with the media, I'm pretty sure everyone who uses social media regularly has seen like Korean videos or like Korean related videos at least like once. I mean, it's very popular now with the rise of like K-pop and K-drama, and I think that, I mean, it's not a bad thing at all. It's a good thing because like, you know, we get some representation out there, but sometimes I wonder like what kind of representation we're getting. If we like, some people might get the wrong idea about us generally because we're Korean American, not necessarily Korean. So if somebody like sees those videos that are like, Korean representing, they might automatically assume that, oh, you are like that or you like that, which is something I experienced a lot in middle school. And like when it like around that time for me, it was when that like whole popularity thing spiked. And so I don't know, I had like mixed feelings about the whole thing. And since like a lot of people would mostly see me like, oh, you're Korean, you like K-pop and all that KBBQ,
I mean,
and
who
I
doesn't love
didn't.
KBBQ, you know?
Well, yeah, I guess.
True.
But I don't know. I didn't know how to feel about that being like the number one thing on everybody's mind when they first hear about me being Korean. But what do you guys think?
media does, I guess, put some measure onto the vast majority of Korean American or just a group of Korean people. Because, but that's just the very nature of how media works. Okay, so for example, there's like a lot of very good looking K-pop idols. And when people look at me, they'll be like, "You're not as good looking as them. You're not Korean."
Really?
Unfortunately, I
Well,
just, well, I just look like an average Korean. And the sad nature is that that's how basically 99% of the Koreans are. But because for the most of the part, where I guess media expose us to shows us one top 1% people, they just have these kind of perceptions. Similarly, we don't really expect the rest of the Americans to be like The Simpsons or Family Guy just because we see them on the media. But it just I mean, by we I meant American part of us, but someone who's not from America and doesn't know that as much as well might think that what they're depicting, The Simpsons and The Family Guy, are like what you will see pretty much as an average Americans. So I think that that sucks, but we just have to live with this because that's just the way how the media works.
Well, I think nowadays, I think it's changed a little. I think people are more aware because of how popular it's become, as well as like Korean American culture. I think there's a lot more a rise of Korean American like perspective videos as well as Korean videos on like the general feed, if you guys know what I mean.
I mean, keep in mind, I mean, I don't know. It's Do you think it's the general feed of everyone's algorithm, or do you think it's yours? I don't know. Because my non-Korean, I'd say non-Asian friends, they don't really have anything Korean related in their feed, you know? But
How
Yeah.
old is that
I think they're
friend?
exposed to it.
I guess so. But like, I don't know. I feel like people from the Midwest. All right. I'm probably gonna talk a lot about other people from the like how people act from the Midwest here because I don't know. A lot of you guys are from the New England area or are currently in the New England area, but um, a lot of them don't really know that much about uh Korean American media, and I just wanted to say that I guess it really um the certain type of culture or all right, let me rephrase it like this. The the culture in the northeastern part of America, I believe, is more suitable for Korean culture than I would say the Midwest. So people from the Midwest, like, they love country music. Like before I came here, I always thought that like, oh, like I don't think I could ever think about like loving country music or find other people liking country music other than like it being like as a joke. And like seeing people say like, oh, they love country music, it's like pretty crazy, right? And in New York, right, a lot of people love like pop music, cultural like pop music, rap music, right? And
Hmm.
guess what? K-pop has those types of elements, right? So it's created with the idea that the demographic of that type of culture would be interested in K-pop. And
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of going back to what Faith said earlier about how, like, maybe nowadays that expectation or like that physical expectation and whatnot that has changed a bit, especially because K-pop itself has globalized a lot. So, like, we do see a lot of, Korean people, attractive Korean people, men and women, but also we see people of like a bunch of different cultures. I think it used to be like a lot of Chinese people and Japanese people, but now it's really globalized. So I think that also plays a role in attracting like people who aren't Koreans into that culture. But at the same time, I think there can be like somewhat an argument that that is the reason why. Well, not, but I think the reason that, or the fact that it's becoming so globalized and westernized even kind of takes away the cultural element where K-pop is kind of seen as like Korean music, yes, but not because it has the cultural elements into it, but because it's just from Korea itself. So when Faith was talking about earlier how she kind of feels that it's very possible that we are associated with that music or that kind of like celebrity style as opposed to the actual country itself. I do think that that is something that's becoming a lot more prevalent in our society.
Yeah, and I don't know if this was just like a thing, but you kind of briefly mentioned it. Like, I guess since we're East Asian, I don't know if you guys experienced this as a kid, but we're kind of all lumped together as one. I mean, even if I was in a predominantly Asian school, sometimes people would be like, "Are you Chinese? Are you Japanese?" And I remember like, and then like keep on like acting like as if I'm like Chinese or something. And I
Really?
remember, yeah, I remember in my physics lab not too long ago, somebody said like "xie xie" to me, and I was like, I didn't know how to tell them that I wasn't Chinese, but they just automatically assumed that I was. And
Hmm.
when I was little, even like Asian kids would do this to me, but they would like pull their eyes back, and I guess everyone did that, but I don't know.
That's wild.
That is
I
that is
haven't had
devious, yes.
I think a
what?
lot of people who live in like like those areas where there's very few Asian people, like I'm sure they experience that a lot. Maybe it's because we've kind of grown up around a lot of Asian people. Like my school, it's extremely like the Asian demographic is very, very high compared to a lot of other high schools. And I think because of that, like no matter who you meet, chances are like 80% chance, 90% chance they're gonna be Asian. So I think in that sense, you don't really see a lot of division until you really go outside. Like if you go to, I don't know, just like a summer program, let's say, like I did notice at the summer program I went to over the summer, when we did presentations, it was like students of like, I don't want to generalize it too much, but like Caucasian students, and then it was just like this one group of all the Asian students. And I don't think it came necessarily out of a place of racism. I think there is like somewhat a comfort or just like a more familiarity in working with people of your own culture if that's what you're used to. So I don't know, I thought that was pretty interesting too. But I guess now shifting the conversation more towards, I guess, less about our culture, but overall reflections on how you guys have balanced the two identities and two like parts of yourself, or which you might, which one you might kind of resonate with more. And I know we definitely have phases where we're not very aware of our own culture or we don't really care much for it. But I was wondering if that has changed at all over the course of the years, where maybe you've grown more aware to it or maybe you've kind of grown distant from it. Eric, do you have anything like in particular? I guess like in terms of like being from Korea and then spending so much time here, do you have any kind of like sense of distance from your actual culture?
Uh, could you define what my actual culture would be?
Well, I would assume your Korean culture. Like, what I'm wondering is, since you came from Korea and you've spent so much time here, do you see yourself more integrated into the American culture, or do you feel more still identify closer with your Korean culture?
Well, it really depends. I was in the phase where I was continuing, or I was in the process of developing and maturing my sense as a Korean. And because of these abrupt shifts that I had in between, I there are certain moments where I feel I'm very Korean about it, but as the others, there are moments where I feel like I'm very American about it. So, for example, I feel more comfortable speaking Korean, and I get along very well with the Korean people because I guess there are some good reasons about it. But one thing that really differentiates me with the rest of the Korean is about how how I treat my people who's above me, I should say. Not necessarily naturally, but just by occupational or positional. So, one of the big identity of Korean organizational culture is that they do not argue with their supervisor or superiors. They first get it done, and then in the meantime, they question why am I doing this to themselves, not to their supervisor. I tend to be opposite, where it was during my research lab experience where my boss basically told me to do some analysis on Western blot, and I didn't know why I had to do it. Now, the rest of the Koreans probably would have just said, yes, boss, and they would have just moved on. I had to basically was having a 15 minutes long argument on why the hell do I have to do Western blot because I genuinely did not know why I was doing it, and I was curious about it. And unfortunately, his English wasn't as fluent, so it took us some time, but eventually I understood why, and then I did it. So I guess the big difference here is that I have to be acknowledged and I have to be justified on the reason why I'm doing these actions before I move on. Whereas a lot of my Korean friends and Korean people I know tend to first get the action done and then get the justification later if they want it. And I think this was very interesting because this was actually part of our Korean lecture where this tends to be a biggest difference between, or organizational cultural difference between Korean organizations and American organizations. So I just wanted to note that out.
So I just had like a follow-up question to that. Like, do you think that if you were to grow up in Korea, you would have that mindset of like just following your superior and doing it, or do you think it's just more of a personality difference?
I think I personally would have just followed his order if I grew up in Korea. Because a lot of the works or a lot of the way, based on my memories, the way it was structured in Korean education was that we didn't really question why we were doing this. I was I was like way advanced in maths course to like the apparently was like high school level maths. I don't think I ever questioned why I was doing it. I just finally followed the order. And personally, I think that trend would have been kept up until I made it to college at the very least. So
Hmm,
yeah, I think I would
interesting.
have been very Korean in a sense.
But yeah, I think that's one of the points I wanted to bring up as well, where it's like the biggest, I think, difference between Korean and Korean American. Oh, I mean that's debatable, but is the hierarchy, like following the strict hierarchy. You know what I mean? Like I didn't think it was ever like necessary for anybody that's younger than me to call me like Nuna or Onni, but and I didn't like I did, but I didn't know why I had to call like my brother Oppa. Um,
Yep.
but like I have a cousin and they're very Korean, so because they grew up in Korea, but they came to America like only like a year ago. So everything about them is basically Korean culturally ingrained into them. So like they're like, oh, if I get like disrespected by somebody younger than me, if they don't like um call me 언니 or if they say like not like informal way of speaking, it's like very disrespectful and like that's not okay. And I never really thought much about it, and it kind of like opened my eyes to like that's like the kind of culture, like if there's like a sunbae, then you have to be respectful. But like in high school here, you kind of just like talk. You can
Like
associate with
friends.
anybody in like the like comfortably and casually.
I think I noticed that too. Like when I have a friend's cousin, but she came from Korea as well, and she's, I believe, like a year older than me. But I remember someone that, or one of my other friends asked her if I can speak to you informally. Like they'll call her like Nuna, but they won't actually like, I guess use the actual formal language. And she said no. Like she said, no, you can't. Like I want you to speak formally. So I like, for me, that was really surprising because they're 1 year apart and they still kind of have that. I don't know if it's just like a sense of respect or hierarchy, I'm not sure, but I thought that was really interesting. And it kind of made me wonder does like, I wonder how the relationships between like superiors in school are, because at least for me, like, well, now
Hmm.
I'm a senior, but before I was a senior, I was very friendly with all the people that were older than me. It's literally like you're just friends, except they just happen to be a year older than you. But definitely in Korea, the culture is very different. And I also watched a video in my macro class about just work life in Korea and what Eric said about where you're very obedient to your culture. They also have a system where you're very loyal to that one company, and they would just like they'll get a job and they won't really quit that company because it's seen as a symbol of disrespect. And I thought that was very interesting and really burdening as well, because here we're used to like, if you don't like your job and it personally doesn't make you happy, then quit it and find another one. So I guess that free spirited nature is so different. And like when I think of that, I definitely think that I could never live in a place where that's the norm, because I guess we're just so used to, I guess, like thinking for ourselves. So I don't know. I think
Hmm.
that's where I really see the divide between my Korean culture in terms of personality and mannerisms. It's not that I don't follow because I don't want to. I just think I couldn't. if I could, and I think that goes for a lot of American people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to
Mm.
agree with that. Especially now, I mean, not anymore really, but last year I was originally a senior in high school and I turned into a freshman in college. And so I went from being the eldest of my grade to the youngest. And I was very, very respectful to a lot of my peers who were older than me, and also very respectful to my teachers. And one thing is that like I don't know if it's just me, but like I sometimes instinctually bow to my teachers. Like not like full on like 90 degrees, but just like a oh like hello hello like that kind of thing. And they would
Mhm.
always point out, I was like, oh, why are you bowing to me? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. So I don't know if you guys ever experienced that either, but
I think I
um,
used to do that back in like sophomore year, freshman
yeah,
year.
I still do it to this day, especially with professors that are very highly esteemed and have accomplished many things. But
It was just their aura.
yeah, probably they have a lot of these college professors. They have a ton of aura. Yeah, like seeing other people, mostly non-Asian, some of them Asian, like being super comfortable with like older people. It was pretty different, I would say.
Mhm.
Sorry, this topic is dragging on a little long, but I was just gonna add like, I even like experienced like this is probably something that would never happen in Korea, but I even experienced somebody telling me like, you still call your brother oppa? Because even since, I guess ever since he left for college, I haven't really called them a lot. So I don't really say oppa anymore, but back when they were here, I would usually only call them like for Daniel, like Tenyopa. So, and I made the mistake of saying that in front of my friend, and they were like, why are you still saying that? Like, shouldn't you have stopped
I
saying that
mean,
like a while back?
our aunt still calls our dad oppa, you know?
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. And that's why in like if it was in a Korean context, like you oppa is oppa no matter what. Like you can't stop saying it, you know? That was like something that we would probably never hear in Korea, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just one last thing. Hannah, I think you're having a very, not odd, but in a very limited perspective on Korean people. So nowadays, Korean people don't really care if the company really likes them or not. They quit whenever they want and get a new job. And personally, about being formal, that doesn't necessarily mean to express superiority, rather to keep it formal to keep the distance between the people. Because having the formality doesn't sometimes even a a same age people keep the formality of I tend to keep up with people who I've first met, or at least for a first few weeks or so. And I don't really care about the formality. Like if you talk to me in Korean by any chance, I would not care if you just straight up come up informal. I wouldn't give a damn about it. So I think it's I don't know. So we only have 8 minutes left of this, but perhaps we can have another conversation regarding that about different cultural awareness with between the Korean Americans.
You're turning more American. Let's go. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Hey, I've been like this since I was in Korea, to be fair.
So it's more of like a not like a you're younger than me, so I'm like you have to respect me. You're saying it's more of like a
I
just
want to
a
keep a distance
boundary.
between you. Yes, I
Okay,
just
that
want
makes sense. Yeah,
yeah.
because the video that we were watching wasn't really about like the culture. It was more about well, it was in macroeconomics. So it was about um just how the average Korean person in a week they work like more than 10 more hours, like 12 more hours than the average American person, and they take like much more, I mean, much less breaks or holidays during the year, just longer hours. That was the general idea of it. But maybe I don't know, maybe the video is very outdated, but it was a lot about kind of like sticking to that one same company. But I guess hearing that it's not really the culture anymore, I guess that's pretty refreshing to hear because I know there's a lot of academic burden among students there. And yeah, like I know there's a lot of, that's why, well, this is not, I guess, super related, but I know there's like a population decrease in Korea. And a lot of it does have to do with, I guess, kind of going straight into the workforce as opposed to like settling and having a family and things like that. So I don't know, maybe that is something related to culture or just personal preference, but
I just wanted to say just one last thing. I just feel like Korean culture in general is improving, and like the overall view is improving over the years. And I guess like the things that we see right now, how people view our culture would be considered like crazy like 20 to 40 years ago. And I just wanted to say like that's like I think it's pretty cool, you know.
yeah, so thank you to everyone for joining us on our journey through the experience of Korean identity and cultural belonging. We encourage you to continue these important conversations in your own communities. Please remember that this podcast aims to be a safe space for everyone where we can explore these vulnerable topics together. For mental health resources, support services, and more information about our mission, please visit koreanhelp.org or email info@koreanhelp.org. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.